Happy Thanksgiving Eve! As many people are preparing large meals for this special holiday celebration, did you know Jesus and his disciples also hosted a large dinner gathering? Known as the feeding of the 5,000, this miraculous event is found in all four of the Gospels. The story actually begins with the news of Jesus' forerunner, John the Baptist, getting beheaded by Herod. When Jesus heard what happened, he withdrew by boat to a solitary place, most likely to mourn the loss of his relative John. However, crowds of people followed Jesus by foot, and by the time he landed, many were already waiting for him, wanting his attention. Rather than get angry or frustrated and dismiss the people, Jesus had compassion on them and ministered to them by healing the sick and teaching them about the kingdom. As evening approached, the disciples came to Jesus and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy some food." But Jesus answered, "You give them something to eat." They replied in shock, "That would take more than half a year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat?" Have you ever noticed the disciples' response indicated they actually had the money to pay for everyone's meal? Jesus was not poor. He had enough finances to warrant having a treasurer, Judas, among his disciples. Jesus asked his disciple Philip directly, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" But Jesus asked this question only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. You see, the disciples were limiting their minds to a natural response, calculating this many people, this amount of money per person for food, multiplied together for the total amount of funds needed. Jesus was trying to get them to think from a supernatural perspective. The God who could heal the sick, calm the storms, and raise the dead could easily multiply food. It simply required faith to believe it was possible. He asked, "How many loaves do you have now? Go and see." When they found out, they said, "5 and 2 fish. But how far can that go with so many people?" Ignoring that last comment, Jesus directed his disciples to have all the people sit down in groups of 50 on the green grass. This was a prophetic picture of Jesus as the Good Shepherd and a fulfillment of Psalm 23, where the Lord is our shepherd, and he makes us lie down in green pastures to restore our souls. Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looked up to heaven, and gave thanks, and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. 5,000 was just the number of men, but there were also women and children present. So conceivably, they could have fed over 10,000 people. Not only that, the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. Now, that is a true feast. What originally started as a secular plan to spend a lot of money for each person to have a little bite of food became a kingdom testimony of God's power to bring abundance from lack. It's hard to fault the disciples for thinking in a natural way. It's what most of us have been brought up to do. But Jesus is inviting us, even testing us, to think with a renewed mind. He will put us in situations of need or challenge and say, "You do something about it." Rather than be discouraged or overwhelmed by limited abilities and resources, the Lord has sent us the Holy Spirit to bring kingdom solutions to earthly problems. May we learn the lesson of the loaves, that all things are possible for those who believe, that no need is too great for the Lord, and that we have been anointed and commissioned to bring his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Bless you to think like Jesus. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.